Passage number 3 from test 4, numbers 23 to 33, starting with 23. You are where you say. Research on regional variations in English language use has not only yielded answers to such life-altering questions as how people in different parts of the United States refer to carbonated beverages, it also illustrates how technology can change the very nature of research. So, the writer wants to convey an attitude of genuine interest and to avoid the appearance of mockery. Which choice best accomplishes this goal? Well, the original has more mockery in it than anything else, right? It's making fun of the idea that this question about how people refer to carbonated beverages is some sort of life-altering question, which clearly it's not. It's just being silly. So that's not quite right. We want something a bit more genuine. No mockery. Weird is going to be too mocking as well. Galvanizing, I think, is a bit too strong. You're galvanized by things that really, really matter, and I think that's just too over the top, too in the other direction. Whereas intriguing works. Intriguing is genuine. It's basically saying the question is interesting, which I think is about as far as you can go, seriously speaking about that question. But no mocking, shows some genuine interest, so we like C. 24. Notice, we're reading the sentence again. Research on regional variations in English language use has not only yielded answers to such life-altering questions, ... And then we have it also illustrates. Remember, when we have not only, we want but also. So right away, that gets rid of all the choices and leaves us with C. 25. While traditional human-intensive data collection has all but disappeared in language studies, the explosion of social media has opened new avenues for investigation. Which choice most effectively sets up the contrast in the sentence and is consistent with information in the rest of the passage? Let's come back to 25, given that we haven't really read the rest of the passage yet. So we will come back to this. Number 26. So let's read this whole paragraph. Let's read down to 26. Perhaps the epitome of traditional methodology is the Dictionary of American Regional English, colloquially known as DARE. Its fifth and final alphabetical volume, ending with Zydeco, released in 2012, the dictionary represents decades of arduous work. Over a 6-year period from 1965 to 1970, university graduate students conducted interviews in more than 1,000 communities across the nation. Their goal was to determine what names people used for such everyday objects and concepts as a submarine sandwich, a hero in New York City, but a Dagwood in many parts of Minnesota, Iowa, and Colorado, and a heavy rainstorm, so variously a gully washer, pour down, or stump mover. The work that dictionary founder Frederick G. Cassidy had expected to be finished by 1976 was not in fact completed in his lifetime. The wait did not dampen enthusiasm among scholars. Scholars consider the work a signal achievement, in linguistics. So we look at the choices. We're going to be, in theory, possibly combining these sentences together. In the original, we've got a period to separate these two sentences, and it seems a bit unnecessary, wordy, redundant to do that, because we end the sentence talking about scholars, and then we start the first sentence following it talking about scholars, so there's got to be a way to combine them. So B does it by using a comma and a conjunction, and these scholars, which is not terrible, grammatical at least, but again, it's still reusing the scholars. We've said that did not dampen enthusiasm among scholars, and these scholars consider the work. It's just a bit redundant. Hopefully we can find something better. But scholars consider the work. Again, we're repeating scholars. I don't think we quite want the contrast of the word but here, so not quite good. Notice D, though, uses the relative pronoun who to stand in for scholars, so we don't have to repeat that word. That is really the function of relative pronouns, or pronouns in general, so that we don't have to repeat the same word. We can build off of it. We can refer to it without saying it. And this one is grammatical. It fixes the redundancy, fixes the wordiness, and we go with choice D. 27. To improve the cohesion and flow of this paragraph, the writer wants to add the following sentence. Data gathering proved to be the quick part of this project. Where would we want to put this? So before, we see in sentence 3, they talk about the data collection portion of this. Then we talk about what they wanted to do. Then in sentence 5, we talk about how Cassidy had expected to be finished by 1976, but it didn't complete until after his lifetime. So it seems to me putting this sentence here is a nice transition from what the study was about, what data they were collecting, into the fact that Cassidy thought this would be finished much more quickly than it did. And that transitions nicely, right? The data gathering portion talks about the opening part. This part talks about the part that follows, about how it didn't turn out to be too quick. So I think putting it after sentence 4 is going to be the best place. So we'll go with C. Checking the others, after 2, we haven't even established the data collection portion of the study yet. So after 2 is too early. After 3, we would split the discussion of what that data collection is about. 3 talks about the time period it was done. 4 talks about the kinds of things they were looking for. Splitting it with this idea of the slowness of the project is just not relevant at that point. Putting it after 5, I think, is too late. I think putting it after 5 is the other trick. At least it is in the region of the passage or the paragraph discussing the length of time the project would be completed. But I think we need this to be earlier so that connects more directly to the data gathering portion of it, which we saw in sentences 3 and 4. So for that reason, 5 isn't going to be good. And we're going to go with choice C. 28. Not all research into regional English varieties requires such time, effort, and resources. However, looking at the choices, we've got different forms of the verb, so this might be a subject-verb agreement situation. What is it that requires such time? Well, it's not all research, or particularly research, and research is singular. So, right, not all research requires such time. That is fine. Don't get thrown off by the fact that that is plural, and you might think, oh, shouldn't it be varieties require? Well, no, remember that's a common pattern trick that we talked about. That's not the subject. The subject is not all research. And that is singular, so therefore we're good with the singular verb requires. B, C, and D are all plural, and you would not pick any of them because that would make a wrong subject-verb agreement. So this one's A. 29. Today's researchers have found that the veritable army of trained volunteers traveling the country conducting face-to-face interviews can sometimes be replaced by another army, the vast array of individuals volunteering details about their lives and inadvertently their language through social media. In the original, we have this sentence that says it can be replaced by another army, and then it goes directly into what that army is without any punctuation to separate this essentially definition of what this army is from the rest of the sentence. So we're going to want some sort of punctuation, so we can get rid of A. Putting a dash after replaced and then a comma after army, we're mixing a dash and a comma, which is no good. And there's really no reason to put this dash here, if anything, so we can get rid of that. C, we use a semicolon, but the part that follows, the semicolon is not a complete sentence, so that doesn't work. So we like the colon. The colon is introducing what the definition of the army is. The sentence before the colon is complete. The sentence after, we don't really care whether it's complete or incomplete, so unlike in the case of the semicolon. So we're totally happy with choice D here. So that's our answer. Number 30, Bryce Russ of Ohio State University, for example, has employed software to sort through postings on one social media site in search of particular words and phrases of interest, as well as the location from which users are posting. So this is the wrong site. We need site like a website, S-I-T-E, not C-I-T-E, which is a kind of reference or a citation. That's what it comes from. Not site as in S-I-G-H-T. That's something you literally see. So the only one that works here is site, S-I-T-E, which is the right site, given that we're talking about social media and websites. So this is a diction question, also an idiom question, though it didn't really end up mattering. It's search of anyway. So that's going to lead us to choice B. 31. From these data, he was able, among other things, to confirm regional variations in people's terms for soft drinks. As the map shows, soda is commonly heard in the middle and western portions of the United States. Pop is used in many southern states, and Coke is in the northeastern and southwest regions, but used elsewhere as well. As interesting as Russ's findings are, though, their true value lies in their reminder that the internet is not merely a sophisticated tool for collecting data, but is also itself a rich source of data. Okay, so let's go to 31. The writer wants the information in the passage to correspond as closely as possible with the information in the graph. Given that goal and assuming that the rest of the previous sentence would remain unchanged, in which sequence should the three terms for soft drinks should be discussed? So let's see. In the original, we had soda for the middle and western portions. Does that make sense? Well, here would be middle and western portions, Midwest, and that's actually pop. So we want pop first, so we can get rid of A and D. Next follows what is used in southern states, and we look in the southern states, we see it's Coke. So actually Coke should come next. And then just to double check, what is predominant in the northeast and southwest, that would be this region and this region, that's soda. So therefore, C matches perfectly with what's in the chart, which is in the figure, so we go with choice C. 32. As interesting as Russ's findings are, though, they are, remember there, this there is they are true value lies in their reminder. No, that's the wrong there. So we can get rid of A, we can get rid of C, those are the wrong theirs. So we want C. Notice D has the right there, but then it makes this there the wrong there. It still has to be the possessive THEIR, so we can get rid of D. The only one that uses the right theirs consistently is choice B. 33. And as interesting as Russ's findings are, though, their true value lies in their reminder that the internet is not merely a sophisticated tool for collecting data, but is also itself a rich source of data. So which choice effectively concludes the sentence and the paragraph? Well, the original isn't too terrible, I guess. No, I mean, it's not too terrible, because we're talking about how we can get specific data out of social media sites, not just using the internet to collect data itself, but also mining the internet, social media, etc., for data in itself. So, I mean, the original seems pretty good here, but let's just double check the rest. Where we can learn what terms people use to refer to soft drinks, I think that's too specific. I mean, that is pulling on what the topic of the paragraph is, but we want to conclude the sentence in the paragraph more generally rather than talking about, this soda soft drink term thing. So too specific, we're looking for something more general. A useful way to stay connected to friends, family, and colleagues. Again, it's true, but that's not what this passage and what this paragraph is talking about when it comes to the use of the internet and social media for research, not for the other uses it might have. Helpful to researchers isn't terrible, but it's just too general. We want to know exactly how it's helpful for researchers, and that's revealed in A, that it's itself a rich source of data. So we're going to stick with the original, choice A. Let's return now to number 25. And here we want to know which choice most effectively sets up the contrast in the sentence and is consistent with what's going on in the rest of the paragraph. So let's see. While traditional human-intensive data collection has all but disappeared in language studies, the explosion of social media has opened new avenues for investigation. So we look at has all but disappeared. That's pretty strong. Does it say that it's disappeared in language studies? Let's see. Notice the sentence. Today's researchers have found that the veritable army of trained volunteers traveling the countries conducting face-to-face interviews can sometimes be replaced. So that would be evidence that the internet and these new data collection technologies haven't completely replaced the old methods. They're useful in certain circumstances, but since they can only sometimes be replaced, it seems like we're going to have to stick to the old methods sometimes. Let's see if we find any other evidence for that. Doesn't look like that, but I think that sentence reveals it, that looking at the original, A is just too strong because it hasn't completely disappeared. So for that reason, we can get rid of A. Still has an important place. Well, that shows the contrast in the sentence. That is consistent with what we've read later, that it sometimes is replaced with these new technologies. So B looks good. Remains the only option. That's way too strong and false, given that we read that these new technologies can be useful. Yields questionable results. That isn't showing really any contrast, and that's not something that is discussed at all in the passage, so it's not consistent with the passage. So the only one that works here is choice B.